Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. What an exciting event. Christian and I are very excited to be a part of it. Thank you for your time today. We're going to talk about some very interesting topics about applying some of the things you learned today at Nodes to real-world solutions. By way of background, I'll start first. My name is Phil Meredith, and I'm the founder and CEO of Process Tempo. We are a Neo4j solutions partner. We've been a partner since 2016, and we developed a great data and analytics platform that works really well with Neo4j. Check us out. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. Hi,
Can you
everybody.
Hear us, Christian?
I'm Cristian. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm Cristian Stelea, Managing Director for Stelletics LLC. And over the past 30 years, my journey was taking me to various areas of food and beverage industry. So I have worked on many supply chain projects, both on my consultancy practice as well as my tenure with the Coca-Cola company. And I was always passionate about problem solving and technology. So I was always close to how fast I can bring technologies or applications that can drive the business processes at a different level and drive improvements. My goal was always to make sure that I build efficient, resilient, and forward thinking supply chains. And I think I'm happy to be part of this process and working with Phil to show you a couple of examples today.
Very cool. Yeah. So Christian is the brains, the subject matter expert on supply chain issues, especially in the food and beverage industry. I'm the tech guy. I can geek out. I love data and I love technology. So the two of us make a great dynamic duo, don't we?
Yeah.
Just a few slides to spur a conversation, and maybe we get some questions in the Q&A panel. But before we dive into building the perfect supply chain chatbot, we really need to address the elephant in the room, and that's the current state of the environment, where we have a lot of skepticism and some challenges that we should address. First and foremost, these chatbots are going to require timely, quick access to high quality contextual data. And in today's supply chains, what you're going to find is a very complex environment with a lot of disconnected systems. And that disconnect not only creates complexity, it creates gap in the data. And so we need to address that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. The other challenge is, there's so much hype in AI, and just every time there's a lot of hype, there's some people that get really excited, and some people kind of get really concerned. And there's a mistrust in some of this technology. That's a hurdle that we collectively as technologists and innovation experts need to overcome. This chart here I actually had ChatGPT create for me. And when I asked it, what's the latest trends in IT spending? And you can see it's a hockey stick going up and up and up every year. That's a huge concern for chief financial officers that need to write the checks, right? So we need to focus as we develop these chatbots. We really got to zero in on those high value opportunities. And that's what we're going to pick Christian's ear about today. And the last one is, I hear all the time, clients saying, well, that's great, but we're kind of still in the Stone Age. And you're talking about like the Bronze or the Iron Age or the Golden Age, really. And so there's some concerns about that we should address. Just to talk about our advice and what we've seen from our clients and what's worked and what's not. As you go about developing your Gen AI chatbot strategy, you got to remember less is more. The chatbot is the easiest part, But what we've seen is IT tech stacks that go 5, 6, 7 applications deep. You really need to look to software vendors to collapse that down as much as possible, because the more moving parts, the greater chance something will go wrong, and the difficulty in troubleshooting that. I know there's a lot of developers on this Nodes conference, and when I say you don't want to be writing code, a lot of them are probably scratching their heads saying, no, we love writing code. But you just got to remember that if you dive too deep into this chatbot, you're going to miss the greater opportunity. What you really want to do is build the whole pie to some extent, and not just focus on one slice of that. So the challenges I mentioned about data quality should be addressed. Another thing I've seen personally is the concept of the one chatbot to rule them all. It's this one engagement that tries to make as many different personas and people in your organization as happy as possible. That doesn't really work, because I don't know, you can't make everyone happy, right? You can try, but having smaller, more contextual chatbots will allow you to go after incremental, smaller success, but you find success faster, where some of these kind of big efforts take a considerable amount of time. And lastly, you really want to, again, address the elephant in the room, data quality issues. And what we've put together from a technology concept is one that we're not hearing from many other software vendors or engagements, and that is the perfect chatbot requires a bit of workflow involved. And let me step you through that. So here it is, the user asks a chatbot a question, the chatbot responds, that's a normal scenario, and then the user goes, wait a second, that doesn't look right. What the chatbot said isn't right. It doesn't jive with me. I know something's wrong. And it's, generally you want these subject matter experts using these chatbots. And when they start to find something wrong, you really need to figure out what's happening and quick. And there could be, as we know, lots of different reasons. It could be missing data, bad data. It could be hallucinations. You really need a good way to triage that. And this workflow approach helps. You need to kind of get in the mind of your user when they've experienced something wrong. Just like all of us, they make a decision. One way is, you know what, I'm going to be patient and I'm going to simply rephrase my question. But if I do this loop several times, and me being the subject matter expert are now smarter than the chatbot, or at least I think I am, my patience starts to wane. And if the data team's lucky, they're going to kind of make it easy for me to communicate these challenges. It's got to be as simple as possible, right? We want to make that feedback mechanism drop dead easy. So as you design your chatbot, you're going to want to have a feedback mechanism right there in the UI that could capture that feedback, both positive and negative. And if negative, you want to be able to put that into some form of work queue or help desk system so that this team can kind of triage it and look at it and it doesn't fall through the cracks. Because what happens if they go through that same process, they try again, if it works, they're going to love the chatbot. They're going to build a long-lasting relationship with it, right? If it doesn't work, somebody's heart's going to be broken. And they may never go back to using that chatbot again, which means you lost an internal customer and the value of your effort has dropped. So you really want to get that right. And what I recommend is, along with your chatbot strategy, build this workflow feedback mechanism that I mentioned, or find a vendor that offers it. And you want to make sure that level of effort that goes into that give and take, and goes into the, hey, I found a problem and I need it fixed type workflow. If you could provide that transparency into that, the user's confidence starts to skyrocket. They get a sense of ownership. They feel like they have a stake into the success of the chatbot because they've put their personal energies into it with the hopes to make it better. So this is why I say chatbots require workflow, and we're going to talk about different scenarios where you need both. And so it's a good idea to kind of combine the two together as part of your vision and your product roadmap. And I'd love to tell you more about this and entertain some questions in the Q&A. Please put them in. But now I want to, with that said, I want to talk about now how we would apply both that technology of the chatbot and the workflow together for some really cool opportunities in supply chain. So Cristian, you and I had a chance to talk on several occasions about this subject. I know these are near and dear to your heart. Let's talk about the first one, the research and development use case. I put a question up here that maybe somebody might want to ask the perfect chatbot. Can you walk us through the question and what goes into it?
Yes, sure. So thank you, Phil. Indeed, those three examples or use cases that were in the previous slide are not the only ones. I think when you talk about supply chain and you have in mind all the domains that are feeding the decisions within supply chain, is a huge pipeline of information that need to be tailored for different functions, different organizations, and not necessarily easy to take decisions which are, horizontally across those entities. So if we have time, I will give you that story that made me think why chatbots are the perfect scenarios or the perfect tools to really drive supply chain. But if we take one of the areas of supply chain, which is R&D or product development, there are so many stakeholders of the process, starting from ideation till commercialization of the finished products. And when I talk about this, I have in mind beverage industry, but could be any industries that you guys are involved. And the process is somehow similar. You handle a lot of information from one team to another. You need to take decisions on a product, on an ingredient, on a specification, on a specific country, and sometimes you don't know all the elements that will make a certain decision. And regulations are part of the criteria or the compliance that those products need to be with. So when you have a simple question like, is this ingredient compliant with the country X? You are waiting an answer that is coming from few people, few days, few hours. While if you have a chatbot, that could be few seconds, and that decision can influence the way that the product development works. And this is just one example, but there are many other examples within product development and testing that if you have access to that information, that institutional knowledge that is captured for years and captures the knowledge of how the know-how, how those things happen, that will allow any user within that space, that function to really learn and apply fast from what the organization knowledge tells you. So this is one example, but for complex organizations which have products, multiple markets, multiple brands across multiple countries and continents, when you move from one place to another one, you need quick decisions and quick data that will allow you to really make the right decisions towards commercialization or production later on.
From a graph perspective, I see what you said as it was a great. I'm modeling the graph in my head: products, ingredients, regulations,
suppliers,
right? And I can see how. Well, I think you mentioned this to me. Like traditionally, this is something that is the data and the concepts that come out of the R&D department. I know working with other industries, that's often different teams. I knew one client that has got 600 different SharePoint portals, and all the teams work in their own portal with their own Word documents and Excel spreadsheets. And they were complaining about so much duplicate effort probably going on, right, in the research
One is the case, the duplication of efforts within different teams within the same organization, but at the same time, there are external factors which are changing the dynamics very fast. Tariffs, duties, regulations on certain ingredients in certain countries, suppliers not being able to deliver. And you need to ensure continuity with your products on the shelf in the stores. So you have to innovate, you have to replace, you have to be flexible in adjusting either an ingredient or an ingredient spec or an compliance to a certain regulation or a certain parameter, that having the information at the right time will make a huge impact for the output of that particular organization, and that's critical. And this is where I see complexity of the processes that we are talking about, combined with the flexibilities that technology like Graph, like Neo4j is giving, gives you the perfect and the knowledge of process tempo in this case, make a perfect marriage for delivering or starting delivery a certain capability.
Right. Let's talk about the next topic. Product recalls and go for it.
In a similar way, we are dealing also here with a set of complexities, and from my experience with Coke, you have to be very fast in answering those challenges that you have in the marketplace when this type of things happens. And this is assuming that you have access to a lot of data, which typically is not in your proximity. And the faster you know, the better is. The better insights you have, the more you can minimize the impact of such incidents.
Time is money, right? And if you can also get ahead of it before it happens, that's important too. I mean, McDonald's is losing revenue because of the E. coli outbreak in their patties, which is why I asked the question. You also talked to me about kind of incident management and incident response. Could you describe what that might look like in a graph and how that would work?
I think that the moment you can combine or have a graph technology being able to access lab data, analytical lab data, supplier information, manufacturing parameters of certain products or products in general, where those products were shipped, where those SKUs are delivered, regulatory aspects. In the moment you can do all those things and connect these disconnected typical databases, you will be able to find the answers fast. Let's say where this batch went, which customer, in which quantities. So you have a faster action, corrective action to really go and pick up those SKUs or hold those that might be in question. Knowing the regulation in certain countries, you can prepare the communication in a much easier way if you have access to what's required from regulatory point of view. Knowing which ingredients are defective or which specs, you can go and figure out alternative suppliers that can really replace those and keep continuity of product in the shelf. So on the shelves. So these are some examples where I think this type of technology can really help you achieve not only time is money, but also minimizing your image reputation, being damaged by those type of actions or lack of answers to consumers, lack of answers to your to your customers, lack of answers to regulators.
Risk exposure is the key word there. You use the term corrective action, and I've seen that across other industries as well, is a regulatory requirement in many of them to document the steps taken to fix a problem. And again, with my mind being a graph and chatbots the subject, I would think that that corrective action information would be so very useful to a chatbot engine to help users in to minimize risk, to get an answer fast. What steps were taking in the past when this event or a similar event occurred. I can see that as really powerful, and that happens when you take these different data elements, feed it into the graph along with the corrective action workflow and the people and the steps taken. It really, really dramatically improves the value of your chatbot.
In my mind and in my experience, Phil, I think this is where I see the value of graph technology in tapping into all these disconnected data systems where corrective action might be in one technology or in one system, one platform. Supplier data might be in a different one. Quality might own the quality data. Procurement might own suppliers, other information. R&D might own other type of things where all this interconnected can really be maximized by a chatbot and specifically by graph technology.
Amen. All right, last subject here, and you've already touched on it when you say quality, but the testing environment. I remember you telling me too that this is just ripe for some innovation, this part of the R&D and supply chain segment.
In the past, and again, I'm calling my experience, companies hold this type of analytical lab testing data within that space of the labs, and they look at the results, they look at the different parameters, and based on those, they might take some decisions of, yes, this is good or this is bad. And that the value of the data is more. So what if you can provide this type of information in connection with other data streams in the organizations, with product development, with manufacturing and product quality, and being able to understand trends, understand, composition, understand, performance towards quality, towards food safety, towards sustainability, and being able to take decisions which are impacting the supply chain in a much bigger scale. And again, technology can help unification of many data domains around analytical labs, not only the internal labs in a company, but also the external labs, because companies spend tons of money to really test their products or ingredients outside too. And that data is very difficult to be connected with what you know inside the organization. So again, an opportunity here from data unification, but the value of it is 10 times more beneficial towards the organization, towards the supply chain big decisions.
I think the people listening to us today who are maybe considering building something similar for their organization, I hope we introduce some new ideas for them, because it is such a disconnected kind of environment where each of these different subject areas we talked about, there's also maybe a separate application, a separate IT team, and they're really siloed. There are, cinder block walls between these groups, and yet they all generate such amazing data that other groups would really, really enjoy. And I think that's where, if you can kind of bring these data assets together and build those links between them, build those relationships, you really have a pot of gold to work with. And it's at that intersection of those systems where you find the most interesting tidbits. And it's a greenfield opportunity, because I love going to customers and finding out that they've never taken these two data sets and put them together. I'm like, I get very excited. We know we're going to find something. Let's dig into it.
And Phil, I will add one thing which I think for me is really critical, as well as this is what attracted me towards graph data technology, and this is complexities and time of reaction. So when I was in my previous roles with Coca-Cola company, we had a lot of data, but complexity of data was, and I'm talking about relational databases. The more complex queries you look for, the less flexibility you have within the organization to really get those answers fast. And what we are talking here is connecting many domains within one company, but that's complex. That you need to make sure that sometimes you might not have the perfect data quality and not the perfect data standards within the organization. So you need to use some technologies which are able to pick up those type of inconsistencies, at the same time starting to give you insights that are helping your organization to really learn and build on those multiple data domains. And this is where I think the advantage of graph technology is kicking in versus other technologies that might be available there, like relational databases.
We live at an exciting time where these technologies are coming together, and I tell my clients it's not a matter of if, it's when. And so you got to get on board with that. We only have a few minutes left. We have some questions in the Q&A. I'll jump to them real quick. The question about, are you recommending a monolithic graph RAG solution or a library of them that are called upon as required? That is a great question. And going back to the concept of starting small, the beautiful thing about the graph is you could expand it quite easily, which you can't really do with relational as easy because of the engineering involved. But with graph, you can expand it. So if we tackle this testing Q&A department issue, and then we want to go and branch into the corrective action section and start pulling that data, we can incrementally make the graph larger. We do have to be careful. We want to make sure we're developing something that can solve that quick win. But I would say the answer is yes. You want to get to a point where you have the graph that can help that chatbot traverse these different domains to help find answers for your clients. If you think about it, in today's IT architectures, they're legacy data warehouses. If you go into a data lake or a data warehouse, you're going to find thousands of tables or thousands of databases with thousands of tables. So it already is kind of a monolithic, and there's a reason why they designed it that way. Why not do the same? It doesn't stop you from creating multiple isolated graphs and then trying to link them together through a front end, through a dashboard or something like that. We've done that for our clients. So there are other ways that we can kind of make those bridges without having to build such a big thing out of the gate. The other question was about follow up on with Coke. Would you be recommending streaming data or telemetry data? And I think the question has to do with reading information off the assembly lines or the bottling plants. I have experience with that. I don't know if you do, Christian, if you want to make a comment about that.
Yeah, I have limited experience with this, but I will go with what's the priority, and then that priority should dictate what if you choose one or the other option. So depends on what you want to do with it and what value will bring it to you. So I don't have a perfect recommendation, but I will go with what the priority is there.
I would add that it's all about the speed of decision making. How fast do the micro decisions need to be made, or could we take that data and aggregate it at some other temporal level, maybe daily aggregate numbers and make decisions off of that. So interesting question, but we're just about at time. I think we have 30 seconds left. I don't see any other questions. So Christian, thank you so much for your time today. I love doing these things with you. This is, I think, our third one together. You'll find some of our past content on YouTube. Please visit our websites to learn more about what we do, and enjoy the rest of the Nodes conference.
Thank you, Phil.